It's like I'm having a really hard day, and it's like I just got to work.
Nicole Richie was the original.
I think she was.
Paris.
Welcome in, everybody. We are here for session 4 for May, because tomorrow's June, and I don't even know what to say about that. But I'm going to let you in on a secret that I'm probably not supposed to tell you. But guess whose birthday is this weekend? Might be a Karen Brown. At least I'm not telling you which day it is. But if you feel the need to celebrate her in 1,000 different ways, I've had to send her birthday gifts in 2 different packages because one isn't here. I know. Well, listen, you. As if I'm not out of the closet too when it's my birthday, so. Yay! Here's my segue into tonight's class. Tonight's class is really going to be fun. And I'm going to tell you, it's one of those classes where I'm not going to be able to give you all the answers. It's Marlene's birthday today, by the way. No, you can't run and you can't hide, Karen. We will find you. But I am going to segue right into class content. I do want to tell you, I love you guys. You guys are, my spirit animals in the sense that, like, you want to know everything and you want it to make sense and you want it to be locked down and pinned down. One of the things I think you know about me after all of these years is I am a scientist at heart, and I like things to make sense. I like things to be really cut and dry. Like, this is this and that's that. And this means this and that means that. I'm going to burn some incense while I'm talking to you. And the one thing about vibration, about tonight's class, is I can't do that for you. I'm going to give you the best of what I've got. I'm going to tell you something, and I'm not saying this to, like, pat myself on the back. It's the best of what anybody's got. I have been studying with teachers for 30 years now. And a lot of them consider themselves to be vibrational experts, frequency experts, right? And I still have questions that I don't have answers to. And I'm going to make it more complicated tonight than I'm going to make it easy. Because I'm still trying to figure it out after all of these years, okay? The one thing I'm going to tell you about tonight's information is it leads me back to what I'm going to, and this is where I'm starting class tonight. We live in a great mystery. And let's honestly take it right back to basics while I burn some shit. I love this month's incense. I'm like a third of the way through it because I've been burning it every day I've been here at work, even if we don't have class, because I love it so much. So you can tell my little burner's been well used. Tomorrow I will go and bury the ash from this month. So this is all ash from this month's incense because I love it so much. And I'm going to send a little bit your way. So we're going to start with this concept of the Great Mystery. It's good till you suck it up your mouth and it makes you cough. But it really is, there's so many good, beautiful ingredients in there, and it's clearing and it's healing and it's purifying, and it's also really stimulating. Well, and I appreciate that. Sherelle said, I love being on the journey with you and the soul family. And I part of what I love about these classes, I take a lot of classes with a lot of teachers, even today, okay? And I love what they do. Each one of them does something different for me. But I don't have teachers who do what I do, which is why I do what I do, why I come to you and try to, give you, hold on, I'm being kind of choked. Paxton likes to chew on my necklaces in the morning. There we go. And he kind of wraps them around my neck. I keep doing what I do because I still haven't found anybody who does what I do, which is remind you of how vast and mysterious this universe really is, okay? we're going to talk about frequency today. We're going to talk about oscillation today, and we're going to talk about vibration today. And you know me, like I don't like to make these classes real scientific because you didn't sign up for a science class, okay? You haven't seen him because he's in the other office. So yeah, Bodhi can't come in and play with us during class because he doesn't behave well. But he just had some honey maple turkey, which is his favorite thing. And Paxton's with his trainer today. So for the time being, I'm going to focus on the camera and on the teaching for the next at least hour. If you have questions in the feed, what I'm going to say is you can go ahead and ask them. I won't respond to them because it's really helpful for me to stay focused on my notes, and I have so many notes for class. So if you're new, that may be new to you too, that I don't tend to respond to the feed until the end of class because it helps me stay focused on where I'm going with my notes and also helps you feel like there's the meat on the bone. And then the last 20-30 minutes of class, I will turn my attention more to the feed. Okay, so if you have specific questions for Athena, that's the time to ask them. If you have logistical questions, this is the time where Karen and Alexis and our team will respond to you. And then what I would say is, I would really advise you, especially if you're like me, where you tend to get kind of distracted, maybe just focus on my teaching for now and hold your questions until the end of class. But you are always welcome to interact with the feed if that's entertaining to you, or if it helps you, or if you are here for that. I won't judge you. But if you see me not reacting to your comments or questions, it's because for the next hour or so, I really want to focus on my teaching. And I'm sitting, by the way, on my mat. Which we are going to be talking about tonight. And you have your modes, and you have your strength. And I'm going to try really hard not to have inappropriate experiences. It's not exactly sitting in the right place for that. But you can turn your heat on, which I will tell you feels really good on your booter. And so we're going to play with all the functions and all the frequencies and the positions and all of that. So not right this minute, but when we get toward the end of class. And we still have some of the mats available, so Karen and team will let you know where to find those. And listen, I'm not shy. I wish I was. I have always wished I was a little more shy. I am not embarrassed. I really am not. Which has made for a very interesting life, I have to say, but I'm not afraid to buzz myself into the next dimension on camera. I'm going to do it in a very appropriate way, and I'm fully clothed, and I'm not going to go to a weird place so children can watch this and you don't have to be afraid. Okay, so vibration. Let's take it back to the very beginning, okay? And I will say on my sheet, and this is for Alexis, because it does not have a breakdown of the modes and the strengths, so I don't know. It says it does talk about going up to 50 hertz, so it may be helpful for you guys before we get to the map part to clarify the buttons and the modes and these specific frequencies that those are aligned to. It does talk about F1 as scraping, F2 is beating, F3 is kneading, F4 is hitting. I don't know if I want that. I don't know if I want to be hit. And then it gives you, I think the numbers are the hertz. So we'll, I also want to say I'm not farting because some of the sounds are really going to lead you to think that there's other things going on. So we will get the specific remote control numbers for you, but I'm not going to talk about the mat until until we get toward the end of class, because I've got other information to share with you about frequency and so on. Okay, now let's start at the beginning. If you go back to, and this is what I'm saying, hang on to your hats because it may get a little, this may get more confusing before it gets more clear. if we go back to the original principles of wisdom on this planet, which is called Hermeticism, okay, then what we know from those original principles is that everything is moving all the time. Everything. You're moving, whether you think you're sitting very still and well behaved and you're not doing anything, you are still vibrating. Your crystals are vibrating. This planet is vibrating. This planet is rotating around the sun, right? So everything is in motion all the time, even if you don't feel it. This is one of the great tests of being human, right? Is that we have to understand that just because we can't see something and just because we can't feel something doesn't mean it's not happening. Does that make sense? So one of the reasons I love going back to the Hermetic principles, and when I talk about the Hermetic principles, these are what we believe were the pieces of wisdom that came from Atlantis, okay? And they were ultimately inscribed on what's known as the Emerald Tablet. And these are basic fundamental principles in the universe, right? Everything is polar. Everything has an opposite, right? There's masculine, there's feminine, there's light, there's shadow, there's up, there's down, there's in, there's out. Everything is moving. Everything's vibrational, right? Everything has a gender. And I want to say, I didn't make this up, and I really don't want to get into a discussion about gender tonight because I know it's like this hot topic thing, and it won't always be. Just because everything is cyclical, like right now, the whole conversation in social media is about pronouns and all this stuff, and I'm not here to have that conversation with you or even to share my opinion about it. And one of the reasons, if you ever wonder why I don't get caught up in some of those conversations, is I have learned that because everything is cyclical, it's actually not worth me getting involved in having conversations about it. Because this will come and this will go, and this will come and this will go. I do think that there's value in people identifying and trying to come to terms with what their identity is and how fluid that is. Like, I think there's real value in that. I've had to have that own exploration in my own life. Like, who am I, and my masculine and my feminine and all of those things. But I don't get involved. A lot of people get involved in those conversations because they like to get into stuff like that, or they like to get attention to their account, or they like to, I don't know, sometimes they like drama. From my perspective, I think this is a hot topic right now, but it may not always be a hot topic, either because we'll all come to agreement about how we feel about these things. So when I say gender, I'm just saying everything is masculine and feminine. I'm not talking about man and woman. And I've been telling you this for 12 years, right? I'm not talking about your equipment, okay? Shooters and cooters, okay? I just, if you ask me my opinion or why don't you get involved, I just don't do that stuff. I don't get involved in politics. I don't do any of that. It's not that I don't have an opinion. I'm just not going to talk about it. That's not what you came here for. So I try to deliver what's on the menu. But I will say a core principle in the universe is that everything is masculine and feminine. You will not get me to ever say before I die that that is not true. You just won't get me to say it. You are both masculine and feminine. I am both masculine and feminine. The universe is masculine and feminine. You have a DNA chain that is a double helix that represents that diversity within you. You, right? You have both of those energies in you, and you will never get me to disagree with that statement, okay? So if you're looking for that, that's not what you're going to find here. You are masculine and you are feminine. Some days I'm more masculine. Some days I'm more in my masculine energy. In fact, most days I'm more in my masculine, which is I'm direct, I'm outspoken, I'm focused, I'm outcome oriented, I am a little bit aggressive, I'm assertive, what you might call type A. I go out and I get, and I take. Some days I'm more in my feminine, I'm more in my receptive mode. I magnetize, I allow, I surrender, I soften. I understand, I hold a space of compassion. But we all have this duality, no matter what plumbing you have. And that's why this conversation is so important. What does this have to do with tonight's class? Well, tonight's class is based in the most ancient wisdom on the planet, right? And one of those ancient principles is we are masculine and we are feminine. Everything has gender. Everything's moving all the time, right? The first Hermetic principle is the all is mind. If you can see it, you can create it. That's another one of the Hermetic principles that underscores our entire construct, right, of everything that we've ever built or created. It all begins with a thought, okay? So part of what's going to be challenging for tonight is I'm asking you to think about some things and understand some things that even for me are hard to understand. As an example, in your worksheets, we talk about, on page 1, dominant oscillatory rates. And on page 2, we talk about the solfeggio frequencies. I want you to notice that on your worksheets, everything has 2 letters after it, a capital H and a lowercase z. Do you see that? That capital H, lowercase z stands for hertz. What I'm going to teach you tonight, which is very important for you to understand, is hertz goes up to 1 million. So we're going to talk about 0.5 hertz, 4 hertz, 8 hertz, 13 hertz, 100 hertz. With the solfeggio frequencies, we're going to talk about up to 963 hertz, Herz, okay? Hertz goes up to 1 million. After 1 million hertz, okay, then we leave what's called the red ray on the visible light spectrum, and we move to the next sequence, okay, which is megahertz. I know, I'm gonna blow your mind. That's why I'm telling you, you're gonna be like, well, how does this work? Or, oh my God, like, I thought it only went up to whatever. There are sounds, sit with me while I tell you this. There are sounds in this universe that you will never be able to hear as long as you are in a human body. But those sounds correspond to light. They correspond to the visible light spectrum, okay? And those sounds and those vibrations, because vibrations are how we experience sound. We experience sound through vibration. Those vibrations are impacting you. Most of them are outside of our solar system, okay? And you will be able to interact with those sounds once you are out of a human body. Animals can hear more than we can hear. You've always known that, right? Animals can smell more than we can smell. It's why you have to be so careful with, like, I'm using lavender essential oil with Paxton right now as an experiment, actually, because I want to develop something for puppies to sort of entrain them to where they should be sleeping and resting. So I'm using 1 drop of lavender essential oil with a mix of other things, and putting a little bit on one of his beds and another on a different one of his beds to see where he chooses to sleep. I'm using 1 drop because we know scientifically that what you smell when you smell lavender is 1/12/1200th of what your dog smells. Isn't that crazy? Did you know that, by the way? 1/1200th of what they smell. Yeah. So if you come at them, like my son wears cologne, and he, instead of bathing a lot of the time, and he'll just like replace soap with like cologne, and he comes in hot. Like, he has 1 cologne that he wears, which I love. It's Chanel Blue. I think it's very sexy, but when you pour it on yourself, it is absolutely not sexy. And when you use it to replace soap, it's 10 times less sexy. When he comes in hot like that, and the animals kind of back up, because for me it's overwhelming. For them, they're smelling 1,200 times the intensity. So when I put 1 drop of lavender essential oil in some distilled water and I spray it in the air and I can sort of smell it, For Paxton, that is like neon, red alert, get me the fuck out of here, I'm in lavender hell, right? Like that is overwhelming. So anyway, if you have teenage kids, I'm constantly telling them, like, you know, cologne and perfume are not equals replacement for bathing. The shower is your friend, right? But anyway, I'm telling you this because the same thing goes for sound, okay? So one of the reasons that sound, you have to be so careful with sound. I've got a little beep thing that I use for dog training. And so when it's something he's not supposed to do and it's a no, I press the beep, and he notices the beep, and then I say no. And he starts to associate the beep with no, and then eventually I don't have to use the beep anymore. That beep I can barely hear. Again, he's hearing it at least 1,000 times, the sound, because animals are able to detect sound on a level that we're not. So less is more, and also recognizing that, this is part of the reason I'm telling you all of this, even if you're not an animal person, it doesn't really matter. Part of the reason I'm telling you this is we live in a human-centric environment. We think that everything on the planet smells the way we smell, hears the way we hear, right? We think that this is how spirits communicate, this is how spirits smell, this is how spirits hear. Once you leave your human experience, once you're outside of the third dimension, there's a whole different range of sound that you become available to, or that becomes available to you. I am clairaudient. How many of you are clairaudient? So I am clear hearing. I can hear things that most people can't hear. I can hear, for me, my clairaudience, it's my second strongest gift, because my first gift is clairsentience. I can feel what you're feeling. But after that, I can hear, and the only way I can describe it to you is, it's like, you know how you used to be able to tune a radio? Like you could hear like, and then all of a sudden you would hear like a station, and then you would hear, and then it would go to a different station. If I don't shut that off, I hear that all the time. I'm constantly, I'm listening to whoever's in front of me, but I'm also tuned into this other cosmic station. And I've learned how to only do that on demand, because it's a very difficult thing to live with. But I literally used to be able to stand in line in the grocery store and hear this station, and like, that man's cheating on his wife. She just lost her mother. And it's just like, I can't take all of this in all the time, right? So I was like almost like I had antenna, and I could just tune in. Not everybody has that gift, and I'm not saying I'm better than you because I have it. You may have other gifts, but clairsentience means that you and I, if you have that, or clairaudience, means you and I are tuned into higher frequencies, higher ranges than other people are tuned into. And that's what I'm talking to you about. We can hear Hertz frequencies beyond the normal human range, which is up to 1,000 Hertz is the typical range of the human Hertz experience. When you're sleeping, you go down to Delta. When you are deeply asleep. I was so deeply asleep last night. I was in such a, and I don't use anything for sleep. I just get myself exhausted and go to bed. So I have very lucid dreams, especially lately. And I was in a very lucid dream last night. I was in a deep Delta state. That's 0.5 Hertz. So I had come down to the lowest frequency of sound and awareness, vibration, that I could possibly be at. Theta is just above that, which is when you're about to be in that sleep, or you're just coming out of that sleep, which I was very aware of this morning too. Alpha is when you're like, okay, I'm going to get up, let me check my phone, I'm going to take the dog out. Beta is, now I'm on the phone talking to somebody or having a meeting. And then gamma is, I'm in class, or I'm taking an exam, or I'm multitasking, and now I'm telling this person to do this, and I'm driving on the freeway and I'm taking a call. That's gamma. We're going. And then every night you come back down from gamma to beta, which is talking to the kids, talking to your neighbor, back down to alpha, which is I'm chill. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not doing math right now, but like, I'm here. You know what I mean? To theta, which is I'm in bed, And I'm starting to set my intentions for like my dream time activity, and then back to delta, which is like, whoa, I dreamed I was in Asia last night with a friend from high school that I haven't seen or heard from in like 30 years. And he was my seat partner in class. It's so funny. I'm like, I'm probably going to hear from him soon. That always happens. I mean, he was a good friend in high school. Not romantic, but like a good friend. And he was like, come up that staircase with me. There's something up there I want to show you. It's really important. It's a mandala. And I looked at the staircase and I said to him, but I'm afraid of heights. And he said, just come with me. It's not as high as it looks from here. Such a like lucid dream. I could see what he was wearing, and so I ended up following him up the staircase, and we got up to the top of the stairs, and there was this mandala, and people were laying in the sections of the mandala, and they were organized by frequency. So obviously I was thinking about class last night. But he was like, yeah, if you lay in this section of the mandala, you go into this state of consciousness. And if you lay in this other section of the mandala, you go into this other state of consciousness. And so he was showing me, he's like, lay down here and see how you feel, and lay down there and see how you feel. And there was like a sundial in the middle, and it was open to the sky. So anyway, I'm just saying, like, I had to be you don't get those kind of dreams if you're not in gamma state. So I'm sharing with you this side of the spectrum, gamma, delta, 0.5 to 4 hertz. The lowest frequency state experience you can have and still be alive. Okay? Because remember, there are negative hertz frequency states that we go into, but we're not, those are lower than your body or your mind or your spirit would be able to consciously process. It was neat. It made me want to build it. It was so clear to me, actually. I was thinking, wouldn't that be a cool thing? And it was concrete. So it wasn't like comfortable to lay down, but there were pillows. And I thought, I want to go make this in the parking lot. You know what I mean? Like, so on people's breaks, they could go and like, I don't know, how would I adjust the frequency? I don't know. Like, that's that's the part of the dream I didn't figure out. But like, he was like, no, lay in that one. And I did. And I was like, wow, you're right. That's really a beautiful dream. Anyway, all the way up to, on page 2 of your worksheets, going into the solfeggio frequencies, which Jared's here with me, and we're going to play some of those frequencies for you when we get there in just a couple minutes, up to 1,000. So like I said, now 1,000 to 1,000,000 is a big jump. If I give you $1,000, that's real different than $1 million, isn't it? And so I just want to make the distinction. Like if I say you want $1,000, you're like, oh yay. And if I say you want $1 million, you're like, well, holy shit. Those are different conversations. And so we go from 1,000 hertz to 1,000,000 hertz. We're still in hertz. Once you get to 1,000,000 hertz, you are in the realm of the megahertz. Once you get to 1 billion hertz, you are in the realm of gigahertz. Once you get to 1 trillion hertz, which is the spectrum of visible light, that's how fast energy is moving. 1 cycle per second. That's how fast light is moving. 1 trillion hertz. 1 trillion cycles per second. That's how fast light moves. That's why you're not light. You are, and this is where I want you to like stay with me. If I'm too confusing, you can let me know. You are not light. You are a dense form of matter. I'm sorry to tell you this if this is not painfully obvious to you, and it's painfully obvious to me because I would like to just be light, but if I was light, you wouldn't see me. When you die, you become part of the broader spectrum. And the reason we can't see spirits, right, who are deceased is because they inhabit those higher hertz frequencies. They're going from 1,000 or 500 or 50 hertz, which is 50 cycles per second, which is pretty good for us to do as humans, or 80 cycles a second or 100 cycles a second, up to 1 trillion cycles per second in the visible light spectrum. Really think about that. So you can't touch that frequency, and you can't see it, you can't be it, you can't even know it, and you can't communicate with it except through intention, right? But you have to recognize you are on this side of the teeter-totter. Now, our crystals start to be, and this is why I love crystals so much. We're talking about sound tonight, but we're also going to talk about dominant oscillatory rates, because our crystals can start to entrain us to some of these higher frequencies. They're not going to get us to the trillion cycles per second, which is a trillion hertz, right? They're not going to get us there. But as long as you're in this big old meat suit that you're stuck in, and then I'm stuck in, I mean, it's really true. Like, as long as you've got blood and bones, and no matter how high vibe you think you are, we are stuck here. But that's why, if anybody's had a near-death experience, which I have, and I think some of you have too, it was such a profound experience for me to get closer to that level of hertz frequency where I was leaving my body behind, and I could experience myself as pure spirit. And my thought in that moment, you know, and I've told this story many times about my experience, so I won't tell the whole story tonight, but that my thought in that moment when they were saying, oh my God, we're losing her, and they were, you know, putting all the shit on me to get me back into the room, and then all of a sudden the lights were on and I was back. My thought in that moment, before they said, oh my God, we're losing her, was, I cannot believe how free this feels. Like, there was a level of consciousness of me of going, whoa, this is really big. This is expansive. I can't believe this is what this is. And it was intoxicating. It was, and I literally, as I will tell you forever, the story was, I literally said to myself, if my kids will be okay, I don't want to go back. And that was the minute I heard them say, we're losing her, boom, and they had all the equipment to revive me. So I knew my kids needed me. But in that moment, I was like, I kind of don't want to go back there. This is just so good. And the only way I can describe it to you is lightness of being. There was no density. It was like imagine the most happy you've ever been in your life times 1,000,000, times 1,000,000,000, times 1,000,000,000,000. Like infinite. Like, you can't even, I don't even know there's no language to describe it. And that's why I was like, and it's, you know, as a parent, I'm sure you realize, for me to say, if they're going to be okay, I'm going to kind of, and then instantly, like, boom, we got to get her back. But it was a bliss on another level. The reason I'm telling you this too is when you are in that state and you don't have a body, so you are pure vibration, you're in that, whatever we want to call it, gigahertz, terahertz. After terahertz, it goes to petahertz, which is quadrillion hertz. If I give you $1 quadrillion, is that a lot of money? Holy shit. Okay, that's called petahertz. And then if we go to exahertz, quintillion hertz, 5 trillion hertz. Again, we're down here in the human spectrum thinking about 1,000 hertz as a lot. Okay. And then, so once we pass 20,000 hertz, that's what's called supersonic. Have you heard the word supersonic? And so that is the speed of light, right? So again, when we are down here in these humble human 1,000 hertz and we're thinking, oh, that's really interesting, right? Yeah, it's true. When Steve Jobs died, he said, oh, wow, oh, wow. One of my mentors, when she passed away, said, oh my God, oh my God. You know what I mean? It's just like, and a lot of them look up and just go, oh my God. They just can't believe what they're seeing. And then boom, it's over, right? My mom's eyes were up. She went from looking forward to looking up like that. And that's when she was gone. And I have a picture. I mean, I would never show it to anybody, but it's in my phone, of when her eyes went from looking forward in bed to looking up. And it was just like, you know, my hope for her is she had that experience of like, well, holy shit, Athena was right. All that weird shit Athena's been talking about all this time, you know, because she was like, well, honey, I don't know, you know. And then, of course, like, in that moment, you have that experience of like, you're going back to the oneness and all that is, right? So yes, we are slow, we are dense, even if we're really smart, even if we're really spiritual and super high vibe, right? And all the things. What I want you to taste tonight is that the closest we can get to the sound of this universe is so minimal because our bodies can't hold it. We can't hear it. There isn't even space in our consciousness to experience it. We're only ever going to get an edge of it before we go and reincarnate. And then by that time, it's too late to come back and go, yeah, you were right. Right? I mean, it's too late. And I was so happy for my mom because she'd been in pain for so many years before she passed away that, like, I was super excited for her to just experience what I experienced, which is, wow, this is really good. And now you know, by the way, and the reason I'm starting with all of this as a baseline for tonight's classes, now you know why I think those of us who chose to come back as humans, there's two ways of looking at this. You know, a friend of mine says, and you've heard teachers say this too, that angels weep for the opportunity to be human because they long for, they don't get to taste anything. They don't get to touch someone or hug someone or be held, right? There's no taste, there's no touch. The human senses don't exist. There's no smell, really. Although I do think spirits can smell, and I think clairaudience is a true gift. But they don't, imagine trying to hug air, right? It's like it passes through. Or imagine trying to touch or hold on to something, or trying to taste air, right? They can hear, but they can't, I don't even think they can really hear us. They can't drop down to this frequency. So if you think they're listening in on your conversations, like your great aunt Barbara, you're worried that she's hearing you, you know, call people names or whatever at work. I don't think Barbara's really listening to you talk shit about people at work, because I don't think Barbara can actually hear that. And honestly, I don't think Barbara wants to hear that. There is no time on the other side, by the way, and there is no space. So they don't have to worry about the walls. They can come through the walls if they come down to this space, which I don't think they do very often. There is no time. So right now it's 3:45 p.m. Pacific time on May 31st. That doesn't exist for them. Once you leave third dimension, you leave the dimension of time. There's no time. There's no years, there's no weeks, there's no months, there's no days. Once you leave the fourth dimension, you leave the dimension of space. You've heard of space-time continuum, right? Third dimension is time, fourth dimension is space. So once you leave the fourth dimension, there's no space. You don't have to be in a room. There's no being in Los Angeles. If I think that I'm in on another continent, I am. If I think I'm not on this planet anymore, I'm not. So there's no space anymore. And then after you get above the fifth dimension, then you get into all these other realms of reality. But those time-space continuum boundaries exist in the third and fourth dimension. Yeah, and here's the thing, like, I'm just going to say, once you get out of this dimension and you have the ability to not participate at that level of conscious awareness, would you ever do it again? I would come back and, like, put pennies somewhere around my kid to let them know I'm there. Or I would come back and make the rose bushes bloom. Or I would come back and show up in a dream or two, you know, to give comfort. But I don't know that I would spend a whole bunch of time down here with all the bullshit that is the human experience, right? Not if I could be anywhere at any time. And remember, do you remember from a couple of months ago, were you there, where I showed you that our solar system looks like this and how many other solar systems there are in our multiverse? And by the way, our solar system, which includes the sun and Jupiter and Saturn, and I mean, our solar system's like this. And there's all these other systems, and then that's our universe, and our universe sits inside a multiverse, which sits inside of other multiverses. They have things to do, right? So it's not like, it's kind of like getting a fast pass to Disneyland, but there's 800 billion other theme parks that are better. So yeah, you might go back to Disneyland once in a while because your daughter lives there, but you're probably going to spend most of your time at the better theme parks, is the way I like to think about it. And again, I'm telling you all of this so that you understand how broad the sound spectrum is. I could spend a whole day teaching all of this, so I'm trying to just give you the perspective, because some people really don't understand. They really think, this is it, or this is all there is to life, or why don't I feel my dead ancestors? And it's like, because they can't hear you anymore, and they don't exist inside your time-space dimensional boundaries. And so they love you, but they're just, when people say they are all that is, they literally are now all that is, if that makes sense. Okay. So one of the things that's interesting to me is when we are, as it says on page 1, when we are in these delta, theta, alpha, beta, gamma waves, this is the boundary of the human experience. I do want to speak to a concept that you will read about in my new book, which will you grab that for me when you get a second? If you have not pre-ordered Crystalpedia, I really recommend that you do, because there's a whole section, you can get it now on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. There's a whole section on what I'm about to teach in the new book. And I wrote about it because, again, I hadn't seen anybody writing about it, and I thought it was really important to share it. So this is Crystalpedia. Won't be in your hands for a few months, but when you get the book, you'll read more about what I'm talking about tonight. So your crystals, so you're vibrating. You are vibrating all the time. Sometimes you're vibrating super high. That can happen for 2 different reasons, okay? One can be that you're in a high vibrational state, so you're in love. Your health is good. You're happy. You're excited, right? That will raise your vibration. The other reason you might be having a high vibration is that you could be having anxiety. Remember I talked about how the universe is polar? Not all high vibes are good vibes. Have you been around someone in the middle of an anxiety attack? Okay. A lot of people in my life live with anxiety, so I'm around it all the time. And I have anxiety sometimes too. So an anxiety attack is actually a high vibration, but it's not what you would call a high positive vibration. But the universe doesn't differentiate between, is this a good high or a bad high? You being really, really, really happy and, oh my God, let me tell you about it, and I met this new person, I'm so in love, oh my God, we're gonna get married, and it's gonna be happy, and we're gonna have kids, I'm gonna move to Nebraska, and it's gonna be so great. Versus like, oh my God, I'm so nervous, I have this new job interview, and I don't know, like, called me back yesterday, but I'm not sure, and I'm not sure. Does that mean I'm gonna get the job, or maybe that means I'm not gonna get the job? They kind of looked at me like it was good, but they also kind of looked at me like they hated me, and so I'm not sure. And I know, what do you think? I mean, you could say those are the same vibrations. One is, I could not be happier, I'm so in love. The other is, somebody hold my hand, because I'm overthinking myself into a physical problem, okay? Both of those can make your heart rate, right? Have you ever had a panic attack? Have you ever had? I don't know. You can't stop your heart. Your heart is just going. It's like you can do all the Vegas breathing you want, and your heart is like boom, 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 boom. Vegas breathing helps, right? But they're the same energy. So one of the things your crystals do is they have what's called a dominant oscillatory rate. Every crystal you work with, whether it's kyanite, which by the way has a midline oscillatory rate. That's why it's so good. It's between the highest and the lowest, okay? Quartz has a high oscillatory rate. Black tourmaline and hematite has one of the lowest oscillatory rates, okay? We modulate, or what we call entrain, our frequencies with crystals. When I'm having anxiety, I use 2 tools. And this is the goddess's truth. I either use sound to modulate, I drop down to those low solfeggio frequencies, or I use crystals. If I'm at an 11 and I need to be at a 2, okay, if I'm like, I don't know, she looked at me, but I don't know what that means, she could really love me, and I need to come down here, I am not going to work with quartz. What's quartz going to do? Quartz is a magnifying glass, right? It raises the dominant oscillatory rate. If I'm very sad, Let's go the opposite direction. I've had depression many times in my life. Anybody ever had depression before? I feel like I've tasted the rainbow of life. When people are like, have you ever been depressed? Yes. Have you ever had anxiety? Yes. You know what I mean? Like, honestly, you could ask me anything and I've probably felt it or experienced it or struggled with it. Maybe that's why I do what I do. When I ask people, like, have you ever had depression or experienced depression symptoms? And they're like, no, I'm always like, wow. I think you're the first person ever to not have depression. But I mean, I'm happy for you if you've never had depression before. Depression, as opposed to anxiety, can look quite different. Depression is no talking. Have you ever had that happen before? A lot of people who go through depression are like, they withdraw. Not really going out very much, right? So if you aren't experiencing stimuli, conversations with people, interactions with people, you don't get the frequency bump, right? So then you go completely inward and the frequency does what? They stop eating oftentimes, or they'll eat too much, which can also lower the frequency. Food can be very grounding and stabilizing and lower your frequency. Alcohol. What does alcohol do? Alcohol does this, cocaine does this, right? So people will use drugs to modulate. They'll use food, right? Cheese does this, sugar does this, a hamburger does this, ice cream does this, right? So people will be like, I don't know, I always eat ice cream at night. Right? Or I tend to always want alcohol at night. So we and that's called self-medication, right? So it's all these different, does this make sense? We're constantly trying to modulate our frequency. We're self-diagnosing and we're self-medicating. One of the things I love about working with sound and crystals is it's a more conscious choice. Okay? When I am anxious and I want to eat a pound of cheese, which does happen to me sometimes, that isn't even really conscious. In fact, sometimes I have to stop buying cheese because I just love cheese. And that is my way of lowering the vibration, right? Now, Tina says she eats honey with her cheese. Well, she's making a conscious choice to sort of ride the middle, right? Because the honey's going to raise the vibration and the cheese is going to lower the vibration. But when people drink and they're just drinking and they don't know why, it's because they're having anxiety. The vibe is here and they're trying to consciously lower it. When people are using stimulants, unconsciously, they know their vibe is here and they're trying to get the vibe here, right? When people are using a lot of cannabis, has different strains, right? There's indica and sativa. Is it conscious? A lot of cannabis users I know are very conscious about it. So when their vibe is too high, they'll use indica to bring the vibration down. When their vibe is too low, they'll use a sativa to bring the vibration higher. Does that make sense? But then some people don't know why. They're just like, well, I use indica to sleep. Well, why is that? Because you don't know how to bring yourself naturally into a state of vibrational resonance to prepare your body for theta state access. And so because you're not sure how to use that, you're defaulting to indica cannabis in order to get to that vibrational place. Is this all making sense? It's all about vibration. Okay, so your crystals, and this is going to be a quick conversation about this, but I do want to talk about it and why kyanite's so important for balance and alignment. Your crystals come on the visible light spectrum, right? All the way from the black stones to the gray, to the brown, red, through to orange, yellow, green, blue, different shades of blue, purple, and then we get to sort of mauve and pink, and then we go into very light pink and clear, right? So there's the whole light spectrum. And each one of those light rays has a different vibration and a frequency. And those crystals happen to correspond to the highest chakras in your system, which are the soul star chakra and the crown chakra, clear, mauve, pink, purple, all the way down to the root and the earth star chakra, which is the red, brown, gray, and black crystals. Okay, this is why we study the chakras. So most of what I'm talking about tonight when it comes to colors and frequencies of your crystals, you already know this information, right? And so a blue crystal like kyanite which has black in it too, which is often black tourmaline, is one of the most perfect crystals for creating balance in the system because it activates the third eye and the throat chakra as well as the root and the earth star chakra. And so it instantly sort of connects with the lowest of the higher chakras and the lowest of the lower chakras, if that makes sense. And that's why, in my opinion, kyanite is one of the best crystals for balancing and aligning the chakras when it comes to your frequency. Okay? Kyanite. Okay. So that's why we're going to be working with kyanite tonight. Now, we gave you a piece in your tools for this month that I love so much. It's kind of like a terminated crystal almost. I love the size and I love the shape. If you want to send that energy to someone, like let's say you're working with a client and they come into your office and they are just right. When I used to do work with people in person, I kind of never knew what was going to show up at my door, right? And so sometimes I would have a client show up and they're just like, they're at an 11 and I need them at a 2, right? So I would just pick up a kyanite and just be holding it while we're talking, modulating the field. If I need that, if I know I'm having an anxiety attack and I need to bring myself into present time because I've got to work or I've got a meeting or I don't want to bring that energy into the space that I'm coming into, then I'm going to hold it in my left hand. You can also give this to a client to hold in their left hand too. So it may not be you that needs to be bring your energy into present time. It could be a client that needs to bring it into present time. Let me just see what I wanted to say before I move on to the next section. So this is the most important thing for you to know related to dominant oscillatory rates of your crystals. Your crystals have a very significant difference from you, okay? The difference is they have, except for the amorphous crystals, like opal and obsidian, that are formed through other means and don't have a static, stable crystal structure. Your crystals have a stable oscillatory rate that does not change because of their static internal lattice or structure. Let me say that again. Your crystals have a stable, dominant oscillatory rate that does not change because of their stable and static internal lattice or crystal structure. And again, in the book, I explain this in more detail, but that is the upshot. So your hexagonal crystals, they're not all the same, but they all have the same internal structure. And then based on their color, which connects to the light wave, they're going to hold that frequency consistently because they don't change. And again, the amorphous crystals like your tektites, which are formed through meteoric collision usually, or your opals, which have high water content, or your obsidians, which are formed through fire, right? Those are exceptions. But the crystals that have the static internal crystal structure, which are like 95% of your crystals, are not going to change their oscillatory rate. You, on the other hand, are nothing but a shifting dominant oscillatory rate. Your heart is going to beat differently tonight than it's beating right now. Some weird shit could happen to you in 15 minutes that will cause a massive panic attack, and you might feel very calm right now, and all of a sudden your heart goes to hell in a handbasket, okay? Hopefully that doesn't happen, but I'm just saying your heart is its own organ, its own oscillatory rate. Your digestive system could be great right now, and then you have a weird burrito tonight, and now the whole system is vibrating at a different oscillatory rate, okay? And there isn't a specific, to my knowledge, I wish there was, and Kelsey, if I could come up with it, I would probably retire. The best I've been able to discern is looking at your feelings and looking at the colors of the crystals and looking at the internal structures of the crystals to determine oscillatory rates. And that's why I was trying to explain to you earlier that when you are in an activated state, your oscillatory rate is higher. So when you're anxious, when you're afraid, when you're in fight or flight, and your heart rate is faster, right? Then you are vibrating at a higher oscillatory rate. When you are depressed, when you're sad, when you haven't changed your clothes in 5 days or left the couch, you are vibrating at a much lower, slower oscillatory rate. Does that make sense? Okay, so your body and your crystals are very different because of that, because your body has internal systems. Every system has its own vibration. Every organ within every system has its own vibrational rate, and they are changing all the time. And some of them you can control, some of them you can't. You can't really control your breathing. You can try to slow it down, and I've given you techniques to do that. Your heart rate, you can't really change how rapidly your heart is beating. You can connect it to your breath, right? But external events and your thoughts and your experiences in life have a direct impact on the oscillatory rate of each organ and each organ within each system, including your hormones too, and your circulation, and everything is dynamic. It's always shifting all the time. So one of the reasons that I think people who are curious about all these things and learning about all of these things love crystals is crystals are static. They're going to be the same today as they are tomorrow. The same thing with sound and music. Okay, so that's why we're going to talk to you about the solfeggios in just a second. One of the, I do want to talk about one particular frequency that is not on your worksheets, and that is called 432 hertz. If you look at page 2 of your worksheets, there's 2 frequencies that are not listed here, so I do want you to add them. And it will also be in your notes. There are 9 solfeggios. We put 7 here. But I do want you to note that there is a solfeggio in the 100 hertz range and a solfeggio in the 200 hertz range, in the 300 hertz range, the 400, 500, 600, 700, 800, 900. So technically there are 9 solfeggio frequencies. My favorite frequency is not a solfeggio. It's 432. And it is known as the God frequency. And I don't know, that's one thing I didn't ask you to pull up, Jared, but I don't know if you can pull up an example of 432. 432, certain things like usually wedding music, I don't know what they call I officiate weddings, but the processional music, most of it is in 432. Sometimes sort of all processional music, including like graduation ceremony music and stuff. That's why when you hear that music, you get goosebumps. It's like your whole body knows that the energy just changed. So 432, let's see if Jared has a good example, or just an example.
Do you want to play it right?
Yeah.
Get past this ad.
Yeah, I know. Just open your hands. Stops animals right in their tracks. Brings me to tears. John Lennon did compose music in 432. So did the Beatles and Billy Joel. Most music is composed in 440 hertz. Some artists were really intentional about 432. So that's good. I think that's good for now. But so I believe that is the sound of creation. I really do. If there is a sound of creation, life beginning, life ending, cycles of generation and regeneration, if there is a sound to that, which I believe there is. I do not believe we live in a silent universe. How many of you have heard the music coming from like black holes and, you know what I mean? Dark matter. NASA's really good about posting sometimes videos with audio of the universe. The universe is not quiet. There's constant sound in the universe. And it's funny because most people I know are used to it now, but my house is never silent. I have a Sonos sound system at home, and I have playlists on SoundCloud, which if you're not familiar with them, you can follow my account there. It's public. But I curate very specific sound lists, and those are usually 24 to 36 hour playlists, and I run them all night long. There's always music. I guarantee there's music playing in my house right now, and I'm not there. I leave it for the animals. I leave it for the space. And I will play different sound lists to attune or entrain the environment to different frequencies. So it's really, really important. Now, one thing for me, it's interesting. If you know me, you know this is also true. Especially when I'm with my kids, I listen to their music. And I know it might be weird, but when I was growing up, no matter where I went with my parents, it was John Denver or like Donna Summer. And I'm not knocking them. I'm just saying like, not Celine Dion. Say a little prayer for you, forever and ever. Da-na-na-na-na-na. Cannot stand it because my dad never stopped playing her music, and I just can't forever. She's related to Whitney Houston.
Yeah, I was like,
anyway, I can't with her because in my dad's car it was always her. Who is that?
Oh, Aretha Franklin?
No. No, it's Dionne Warwick.
Oh, okay.
I love you, Dionne, and God bless your soul in heaven. I cannot listen to you. I'm so sorry, and my voice is so horrible, and I just ruined it for you. But I would open the door from school. The minute I wake up, and I was just like, shoot me, right? So anyway, now, but with my kids, I don't know if you've heard like current rap and hip hop, but it all sounds the same, and it's really vile. It makes like the stuff we were listening to in the 90s sound like it was kindergarten songs. I'm just like, I can't believe it. But it's all Drake and all the stuff. Like, that's what I listen to when I'm with my kids, because I always made the commitment that I was going to listen to my kids' music. So I have all my kids' playlists, and that's what I listen to when I'm with them. Because I do like a diversity. I'm going to tell you right now, I can't do that for very long because of what it does to my vibration. I can be super relaxed and put on their playlist, and within 15 minutes, I'm having an anxiety attack. I'm nervous. I'm like, I don't know, I'm not digesting my food that well or whatever. Now, I also throw up with Dionne Warwick, but that's probably more PTSD from growing up with her and John Denver and all of that stuff, that I just can't do that anymore. So what I do when I'm by myself is I'm listening to what you would call spiritual music, right? Which is, a lot of it has lyrics, some of it doesn't, and it's the playlists. And I know which playlists will entrain me to a higher frequency and which ones will kind of entrain me to a lower, deeper frequency, more of a shamanic frequency, as I would call it. Okay? Yeah, if you want to know more about kids today's playlists, I can certainly educate you. But I mean, the lyrics sometimes just curl your little toes, you know? It's my sweet little 14 and 16-year-old, and they're listening to that. So when parents say, I can't believe you swear around your kids, I'm like, have you heard the lyrics to their songs? Me saying the F-bomb a couple times a day, I ain't got nothing on what they're listening to right now. But so be it. Okay. So I want to talk about the Solfeggio frequencies, and I want to start with the history of it. I like 80s rap. They didn't have to say all the horrible things, you know what I mean, about what they're doing to women and all that. They didn't have to do that, so. But it is what it is. We are where we are. The pendulum swings. I do want to say that, before I move on, my sort of last thing about this is, just like I said, a high vibrational frequency can be great, right? You're super happy, you're totally in love, you're succeeding, you're hitting your goals, you're manifesting. And a high vibration can also be you are freaking out and somebody needs to hold your hand and bring you into present time. Those are both very high vibrations. A low vibration can be depression, but a low vibration can also be you being grounded. If you're looking at someone, can you really tell the difference between somebody who's really grounded and extremely depressed if they don't tell you? I can't. Unless I'm really feeling into it on an intuitive level. Someone who's very depressed and someone who's very grounded, those two people can look very similar. Just like somebody in the middle of a panic attack and somebody who's just hit all their sales goals for the year can look very similar too. Off the charts, kind of hanging off the walls versus fully in the moment, but you don't know. So I what I want to say is there's no judgment here. It's not like this is good and this is bad. High vibe is good, low vibe is bad. It's not true. High vibe can be bad in the sense of a panic attack, and low vibe can be good in the sense of like fully embodied in the moment, grounded. You know, I'm not up here, I'm down here, I'm just really present. One of my dearest friends in the world is a Zen Buddhist, and he looks like he's depressed all the time. I kind of have as an RBF, so he always kind of looks like low-key depressed and pissed. He's just really present and chill. If you didn't know him, you'd be like, wow, is he okay? And it's like, no, he's better. He's more okay than you are, right? But he's just fully embodied. He's in the moment. He's just grounded. Okay. I want to explain to you the history of the solfeggios, and then we're going to briefly play them for you. And then we're going to talk about our mat, because vibration is a matter of sound and frequency, right? So vibration shows up in music and sound, but vibration also shows up in literal vibration and frequency. And so you can use your mat. What I would recommend, the perfect scenario for shifting your frequency is to combine the energy of your mat with the energy of music and sound. Okay. I thought she brought me a extra sheet with the information about the settings on the mat, but she may not have.
I asked about it and they didn't have the settings.
Okay.
Wilson was able to send me some info about
Okay.
the controls.
Okay.
But
Okay, good. Yeah, so we'll just we'll work with that. Okay, so this is one of the things that most people don't talk about when it comes to solfeggios, and I always consider it my job to. Oh no, I lost my battery. Can you plug me in?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll start teaching you, and then I'll go to the information on my computer. I should have charged my computer, Jared. I'm not good about charging my computer, honey. Okay, and you can actually start working with your mat now. So what the I lost your.
Oh, yeah.
I know.
Sorry.
With your fourth arm, could you could you show me that?
Yeah.
Okay. So strength increases the vibration itself. So you're going to turn on your mat, and you're going to increase the strength, which allows it to go up to 50 hertz. The mode is whether it is doing a scraping motion, a beating motion, a kneading motion, which is my favorite. Try the kneading motion. I get neuralgia sometimes in my lower back and in my hips, and I find that kneading motion, and especially if you turn on the infrared heat, will warm you up and then will sort of massage. And then you also have the hitting, which I don't enjoy. I don't want anybody or anything hitting me. And then hammering I also don't enjoy. But some people do like the hammering. It's like kind of a rolling vibration. Then there's one called finger, which I'm going to leave that to your imagination. Rolling and then oscillation. I don't like the oscillation because I don't like the breaks in between. So my favorite is F3, which is your kneading, which feels like a nice massage, and it's a consistent. And then the fast slow, again, is just increasing the frequency and the vibration. So if you're not feeling it strong enough, you can make it faster or you can make it slower. The position just changes. Do you feel the heat, by the way, when you turn on the infrared? That's my favorite function of this, is that you can add heat. And you can put it more on the left front or the right front or the right front or the right back. Left front, left back, right front, right back. Or you can alternate.
Sorry about that.
So I'm at an 8 right now on the, oh, that feels really good, on the kneading. And I have it really focused on the left and right back, which hits my sciatica. And I have my infrared heat on, which is really nice. And then what I'm going to do, so it's nice for you to have this on while we talk about the these solfeggio frequencies. Sorry, Jared. You want me to plug it in?
Yeah, just
Okay.
record.
Thank
Just
you.
like balancing these things.
No, I know. Jared's being gentle because all the drums are over there and they can start rolling. Okay. it's gonna blow your vibe. It's gonna ruin your
Yeah, I
vibe.
don't know what the hurts for that.
There's no hurts for that. That's really funny. Okay. Yeah, that feels really good. Heat me up, baby. What's the max time the mat can run? Karen can get that information for you. I'm actually not sure. I've run it for about 10-15 minutes at a time. Is the sound disruptive to you? Can you still hear me? And that's the one thing when I was teaching, I'm like, I don't know if that's going to be disruptive, but I'm over here enjoying it. If you lift your butt up too much, it makes a weird sound. Okay. I wonder if I can find the Latin for this too. Hold on. I read it to you in Latin the one time I taught this before, so let me see if I can find it. Let me explain what I'm talking about. The solfeggio frequencies actually come from the Western Christian tradition. Did you know that? Okay, good. I'm glad you can hear me. The Gregorian monks were chanting them in the 11th century, so over 1,000 years ago, which is really interesting. Is it quiet? It's good. So Guido d'Arezzo, who lived from 990 to 1035 BC, channeled them. Although I will tell you that they have a really interesting and kind of obscure origin story, if you believe the story, and I do, and I think it's quite magical. They kind of went off the radar, especially when it comes to healing and people using them for healing purposes, until the 1970s. There was a doctor named Joseph Puglio, who was a physician, but sort of a naturopath too, who rediscovered them, and sort of that's why we have them today in our modern metaphysical practice, is because of that rediscovery of the importance of the solfeggios by Dr. Puglio in the 1970s. Now, each one of the solfeggio frequencies, and again, there are 7 primary, but I added the other 2 because I think of there as being 9. But the 7 primary, which begin with 396 hertz, also have a note attached to them, right? It's the root of what we think of now as do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Okay? But it comes from the Latin. This is why I think this is so fascinating. There was a hymn to John the Baptist. And I'm going to give you the translation of it, and then I'm going to try to find the Latin and read it to you. The ut, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti is actually the first 2 letters of the stanzas in Latin of the hymn to John the Baptist. Okay, so the translation of that hymn, so really what the solfeggios are is code for this blessing upon Christians from John the Baptist. to bless your soul, to purify your soul. Okay? So here's the translation. This comes so that your servants may, with loosened voices, resound the wonders of your deeds and clean the guilt from their stained lips. This comes so that your servants may, with loosened voices, remember they were chanting, resound the wonders of your deeds and clean the guilt from your stained lips. Now the Latin of that, let me see if I can find it. I meant to find it earlier. The Latin is, by the way, John the Baptist, of course, considered a man sent from God, who was the light, came as a witness. Let's see. Maybe I can even find someone singing it. Let's see. Let's see if this is the Latin.
Resonare fibris, miras estorum, famuli tuorum, solve polluti, labire adum, sancte Ioannes. Nuncius Elo.
Isn't that beautiful? So, ut is ut quant laxis, right? That's the first section. And then re, resonare fibris. And then mi is mira gestorum. Fa is famuli tuorum. Sol is solve polluti, right? Solve is to heal, right? La comes from labe reatum, which is the lips. And then si is sancti ionesi, right? Ut, re, mi, fa, sol, la, si, which became adapted to do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti. Isn't that interesting? So I don't know. I like to give you like the weird history tidbits. A lot of people don't. Oh, mine just shut off and now my butt's kind of tingly. Like, you know, after a good massage, you kind of got to itch it. Okay, so I'm going to briefly, and I'll save that link and show it to you so that you can play that later because it has the whole Gregorian chant. What a cool website. Isn't that beautiful? Okay, so 300, let's start with 174. The two missing solfeggio frequencies that I work with, and by the way, your tuning forks are often attuned to these frequencies too, which is why tuning forks are such an additional powerhouse tool to add to your collection. We have some at sagegoddess.com today that I think are going live at like 5 p.m. after class. So if you don't have a tuning fork, I do want to explain to you, and if Alexis, if you're watching, it'd be cool for you to bring them up too afterwards so I can show them. Because we make our own tuning forks at Sage Goddess. That's another way to bring sound into your life. And the way I work with tuning forks, there's actually really only one way I do it every single day, and that's in the morning. Candidly with you, for my practice, I'm not constantly sitting there and tuning my head all day long or tuning my heart all day long. I'm not. But I do have my tuning forks where I make my, what I call my morning juice, which is lemon juice with apple cider vinegar and then the special water that I drink, which is pH balanced. And I drink that every single morning of my life, even if I'm traveling. Also, when I make tea, I will tune the water. So I keep my tuning forks where I heat my tea and also where my lemons are and where my apple cider vinegar is, because that is one way I work with tuning forks every single day. you can choose which frequency you want. So if I'm having pain, I choose my 174 hertz tuning fork, which is for pain relief, and I tune the water. So I will strike it and put it in the tea water, or strike it and put it in my morning juice. Okay, that's for pain relief. Number 285 in the solfeggio, so the 200 hertz frequency, regenerates tissues and organs. So if you've been overdoing it with too much fat in your diet or too much alcohol, it's really good for helping to detox. Although I would also say the 396 is good for detox too, and 417 can be good as well. What 285 is really good for is after surgery, because it really is good for skin repair, tissue repair, cellular regeneration. So if you're having to recover for something significant, 285 is really powerful. Yep. So those are the two frequencies that are not on your worksheet, but I added them here for you. 396 is more of an emotional frequency for me. So if I feel like I've got a lot of guilt, a lot of fear, typically it's associated with the root chakra, so not feeling safe. And I'll be answering questions in about 5 or 10 minutes after we play some of these frequencies for you. So if you have any questions, just hold on to them, because I'm all about answering your questions. If you have guilt, fear, if you don't feel grounded, if you feel kind of like you're flying loose and you've got anxiety and there's just a lot of, remember we talked about being up here and you need to be down here, 396 is a good vibration to work with. 417 is called the undoing. It's the Control-Alt-Delete of the solfeggios. I love it. That's one of the ones I work with the most too. It's associated with the sacral chakra, but it releases negative energy from your field. It's like you come out of a weird conversation or a weird interaction or a weird meeting, that's the tuning fork you want to use in your tea that afternoon. It's like, I just want to Control-Alt-Delete that. I want to set that aside. It brings in positivity, really helps with the reproductive organs. I worked with it, this is TMI, but I had really bad bladder infections for years and years and years, and was able to heal myself eventually, which was a great thing. But I constantly worked with that frequency for chronic UTIs. 528 hertz is the DNA repair. This is the solar plexus. They call this the miracle frequency. Really good for the stomach, liver, and pancreas. Reduces stress, balances your hormones, and helps with adrenal fatigue. And don't worry, if you missed anything I taught, it'll be in your notes. So if you missed the two frequencies I started with at the beginning, those will be in your notes. 639 hertz is your heart chakra. This is the relationship frequency, helps with communication, balances your emotions, helps you be more positive about love, and it also helps with the cardiovascular and respiratory systems, including the lungs. So this is good for COPD. I would often use this frequency with my mom. 741 hertz is the throat chakra frequency. So that's about detoxification. This is really good if you're pissed. You're just shitty pissed and you don't know what to do about it because you can't get out of that place of just being shitty pissed. It helps you with balancing your anger and your frustration and your resentment. And it also helps you not communicate from that place, so that you communicate from a place that's centered and balanced. This is good for thyroid, Hashimoto's disease, the larynx, the neck, the ears, the mouth, and also teeth. So helpful for all of those. And then 852 hertz is your third eye chakra. This is seeing through the illusions of life. This is really good. I work with this one for MS. It's good for the brain, even for the thoracic spine, pineal gland, immune system. It strengthens the immune system. It also helps if you have autoimmune disease like I do. We don't need to strengthen our immune system. Our immune system works overtime. We need to balance it so it's not overreactive. Also helps with the eyes and vision issues, physical vision as well as spiritual vision issues. And then 963 hertz is the crown chakra. This is your consciousness vibration, your enlightenment vibration, connects you to spirit, helps you experience the oneness of all life, your true nature. This is really good for the central nervous system across the board and the pituitary gland. I also work with 963, me personally. I've never seen this written anywhere, but it's what I do. In the video on not overthinking that I just did on YouTube, I talked about how when you're under stress, there's two parts of your brain that are affected. right? And so it can help to prevent fight or flight, this frequency. So if you tend to have an overactive hippocampus, for example, where you just overreact to things because your brain is like, everything is bad because life is bad, because this is bad, because he's bad, because she's bad, it can help to get you out of that locked up mindset and help you to have more of like a beginner's mind, where it's like, well, what if it's going to be different this time? You know, what if I don't have to react the way I've always reacted to the same stimuli? Which is a real paradigm shift. But that 963 hertz, because it's the enlightenment frequency, can help you move into a different level or relationship with energy. Okay, so let's just play really quickly for them.
Yeah.
Jared's been so patient. He's been here the whole time. I didn't realize I was going to get to it right at the end. But do you have 174 teed up?
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah,
let's
right.
listen to 174, which is the pain relief frequency. These are all from YouTube, by the way. And just sit with your hands open, palms up to receive. So different from 432, right? You can feel the energy of that vibration dropping you in. And then what I'll tell you is, as you listen to the solfeggios, one fun exercise is to take your pendulum and ask your pendulum, which chakra is this activating? Not activating the solar, not activating the sacral. It's activating the root and below. Interesting, right? So if you're hurting, again, tune the fork, hold it to the place, make your tea, tune the water. As you drink that water, imagine every cell where your body's in pain receiving that water and opening up to allow that energy to move in and move through. And then 285, we're going to move up now in frequency to organ regeneration, right? Cellular renewal, recovery from severe illness or surgery. So any organs in your body that need healing, that could be your heart, that could be your intestines, that could be your liver, your thyroid, it could be your brain. It's always my brain, right? Just imagining every cell opening to just say yes. Just taking a deep breath. And then 396 takes us now into the main chakras of the body. So this is your root chakra. Here we're letting go of guilt and fear, codependency, inadequacy. Everything is fine, you're safe, you're worthy of being here. You don't really need anything or anyone, right? Yeah, and your pendulum may tell you it's activating different energy centers, and that's why I was saying, like, there's rules about how these things work, and then there's the reality that energy is fluid, and we're all so different, even though we're the same, you know? So just allow yourself now to receive that vibration. All is well, and all is well, and everything shall be well, right? Nothing to fear, nothing to lose, nothing to harm you. You're safe, you're worthy. You're perfect as you are. There's nothing to change. You're beyond perfect as you are. You were absolutely intentionally designed, right? And then 417 hertz, which takes us up to the sacral chakra now, is all about releasing all negative energy from the field. Now again, you may experience this more at the heart chakra because you maybe the negative energy is sitting in your heart. It's not in your sacral chakra, right? It can open you up to more creative inspiration. Helps to heal past life trauma. Very good for healing trauma around childbirth, hysterectomy, abortion, miscarriage. traumatic births, right? Both of mine were emergency situations, so whatever you experienced, right? Let's take a breath there. And then 528 hertz, which takes us up to the solar plexus. This is the miracle frequency. They call it the master healing frequency. Harmony, positivity, reduces stress, reduces and balances hormone levels. So that could include cortisol. That could also include the male and female hormones, your testosterone, progesterone, estrogen, naturally, really good for menopause. Take a breath there. I love 528. I'm just going to tell you, I'm a 528 person. If I had to choose one frequency for the rest of my life, it would forever be 528. It just always feels right on time. But again, it's a general miracle frequency. And then 639 takes us up to the heart chakra. This is relational healing. Again, communication around relationships, understanding. You can feel the woof, kind of lifts you now, right? We're in the upper chakras now. The heart's the centers, then we come up to the uppers. Cardiovascular healing, the thymus gland. It's a good place just to put your hand over your heart. I like this one too, but 528 still hits different. You can play both, which is called binaural. So if you play for 528 and 639, you can actually experience the dual frequencies, and that has its own synergistic effect. When we go to 741, again, this is throat chakra, so negativity, anger, jealousy dissipating, right? Right speech, clear communication, allowing the angels to speak through you, communicating from your higher self. And again, you can feel the lift here even above the heart chakra, right, to send this energy out. So good. And then moving up to 852, which is the third eye chakra, balances the brain, pineal gland, immune system, helps you see through illusions. Feel the elevation again of that frequency. Starting to feel, as I get up to this frequency, I start to feel that the energy moves out and starts to connect outward to the spirit world. The rest of it feels all very inward, but this starts to move up and out for me. And then 963, which is the highest of the Solfeggios, is your crown chakra. This is your spinal cord, which contains your spinal fluid, which is your soul juice. Connects you to spirit, experiencing the oneness of all creation. This is where you start to feel the expansion of the energy outside the field, which once energy leaves your field, it diverges. It splinters off, because now you move into the angelic realms, and there's different levels and layers of the angels, which we're going to talk about this month. And then you move off into different forms of duality and trinity, and there's so many different aspects and forms of creation, right? You move into the devic realms, and then once you get into the akashic realms, then there's all past, all present, all future. So the all-knowingness, everything branches off once you leave the crown chakra. It's like a fountain. And a deep breath there. And then buzz if you want to, if your buzzer shut off, honey. And that is it for everything I wanted to share with you tonight from a teaching perspective, which leaves us about 15, 20 minutes, because we started a couple minutes late. 15, 20 minutes for questions now. So if there's anything that you've been holding on to and wanting to ask throughout class, I will show you, because I have my tray of tuning forks here. And I only mention this to you in case you don't have tuning forks, because it is a really cool way to bring vibration into your space. These are the Sage Goddess tuning forks. Now, the team will have to tell you which ones we have separately or whether you have to buy the set. I don't know. But we actually have one above the 963. So let me just go back. This is 174 for pain relief. This is 396 for the root chakra for releasing guilt, fear, and inadequacy. This is 417 for the sacral chakra, which is bringing in positivity, helping you work through trauma. This is my favorite, 528, but that's because my solar plexus is always screwed up, but that's the miracle fork. This is 639 for love and relationships. This is 741 for intuition and throat chakra. This is 852 for third eye, inner vision, and also physical vision. This is 9, and also for memory. This is 963, enlightenment, connection to one source and all it is. And this is 1047, which is considered the angelic frequency of the soul star chakra. And then what you do, just so you know, is you take the striker and you, I don't know if you can hear that, and then you can place it on the body or place it into your water or bring it through your field, which I always do sort of a 4-point over my head. The lower chakras are always weighted. I don't know if you can hear that. And the upper chakras are always not weighted. And that's a manufacturer preference. They feel like that makes the vibration different. So yeah, so you would strike it and either apply the pointed end to a place where you need the energy on that chakra on a pain point, bring it physically through the field, or put the point into your water, your tea, your morning juice. Yeah, and that your code, I think, is SAVE. I said sale last night and it was not the right code. I totally screwed up for 24% off.
Can double check.
That's where my
It is save,
minor dyslexia comes in.
24%.
Like if it's save, I'll say sale. If it's sale, I'll say save. It's like I
I'll
just
make
can't.
up a word any day. Of
Yeah,
the
it's
week,
just like, here's my new word, which totally doesn't work on the website. Yeah. So yeah, Tanya said she's going to start scheduling solfeggios through her Sonos into the bedroom each night. It's a fantastic idea. Sonos is a really cool, affordable way, if you don't want to put like speakers into your walls or you can't, to have magnificent sound that you can control. Like my Sonos is right on my phone, and I have my different zones, and I play different music into the different zones of my house for different reasons. So yeah, it's a fantastic way. And you could even make, Tanya, which would be super cool, you could even make solfeggio playlists, right? So specific playlists for each specific frequency, and then channel that into the different zones. Yeah, so I don't know which ones are being sold together or separately. So Karen, if you wouldn't mind letting them know. I'm actually not sure.
Right. It looks like they might all be listed separately.
Oh, they're all separate. Okay,
I think
good.
you have the option to get them all.
Okay.
Yeah. Karen will correct us if we're wrong there.
Yeah, so the name of the solfeggio takes us back to the monks who were chanting. Yeah, so that's kind of a nod to the origin story of the frequencies themselves, which I said, earlier, I think is a code for that hymn to John the Baptist. And so it's a way of singing the hymn, even if you don't sing the hymn. And then the notes were extrapolated from that, and then you play the notes, and you're basically reciting the hymn because it's the notes in the hymn, which I think is so cool. Yeah, so Denise, you're going to want to use the heart chakra frequency, right? You're going to want to work with the 639. But then, Denise is talking about having a heart catheterization. I would also do, for me personally, I would do 285, which is protective of the organs. And I would probably use both frequencies or both forks. And remember, you guys, we're also talking about the chakras, and then you can extrapolate this to the stones. We didn't talk a lot about stones tonight because this isn't Crystalpedia, right? This is a sound and frequency session, but I think it's worth mentioning, like, what are the heart chakra stones? Well, my favorites, like if I was doing a crystal prescription for Denise, it would 1000% be, I would do chrysoprase, I would do rhodochrosite for Denise. right off the bat, those would be two of my strongest recommendations. Rhodonite. And I talked about rhodonite the other day. I don't know if you watch my daily lives, but we had these really beautiful chunks of rhodonite from Brazil that have manganese and pyrite. There's like rivers of gold and rivers of black. And manganese is such a powerful physical healer and purifier. There's that thing on Facebook and TikTok about the person had bruises and they put manganese on some bruises and not on the others, and the bruises with manganese healed faster. So, so my morning juice is lemon and ACV. And I've been using it for almost 10 years now. And it's funny because my sister came to stay with me and she's like, my nutritionist says that's not good for you. And I was like, well, God bless your nutritionist. But she could buzz right off. The reason I work with apple cider vinegar, there's a couple of reasons why, and I know that's not the focus of this class, but it's worth mentioning, is that it has something in it called malic acid, which burns fat. So if you eat a lot of fat in your diet, whenever Alexis comes in, I'm always like, is everything okay?
Oh, right.
It's fine.
It's like harder to see around these lights too.
I usually try to come in the last 10 or so.
She comes in to round us up. But malic acid actually really does burn fat. It burns fat. Like, let's say you have a steak dinner with a bunch of butter and stuff. I can never feel good until I have my ACV the next day because it burns through that and helps your body break it down. It also burns through stored fat. So if you have, it helps with cellulite, with the appearance of cellulite, it burns stored fat. Like if you've always had heavy legs or whatever, it's amazing. And then if you ever get those like weird bumps on your arms, like the little bumps, you don't get those with ACV. It takes those off. So rather than exfoliating, you just drink your apple cider vinegar. So what I do is about a shot glass of ACV with the juice of 1 whole lemon and about half a cup of good water. And I drink that in the morning. So it's diluted. Everyone will say, what about your teeth? What about your whatever you're going to say? My dentist actually is Greek, which is probably why he agrees with me about all of this. But he said it actually can help remove tartar and prevent tartar buildup, which actually can clog your heart. Hippocrates, who is the father of modern medicine, he's was the first doctor, right, in ancient Greece, said he could cure anybody if he had apple cider vinegar, which is just fermented apples and honey. And to this day, we know that, and I would also add garlic and red onions to that list, and turmeric and ginger. But those are all natural antibiotics. They burn fat. They prevent calcium buildup in the body. They prevent clogged arteries. I mean, it's just, you do your homework and you'll learn so much about all of those things. So anyway, I actually have changed brands of ACV in case anybody's interested. I noticed, I'm not to dig on Bragg's, but even Bragg's with the mother didn't really have the mother in it anymore after COVID. I don't know what happened, and I've bought about a dozen bottles. So I changed to Sprouts brand, and it does have the mother. And there's a huge difference in weight maintenance for me anyway, because I can kind of eat what I want as long as I take my ACV. I stay pretty much at the same weight. So anyway, yeah, and I would add cinnamon and oregano too. So hopefully that's helpful for you. Yeah, so Tina's saying if you have gastric irritation, you should not have ACV. I don't know. I mean, I have Crohn's colitis. You know, it's in remission, but my doctor thinks part of why it's in remission is because of the ACV. So I don't know. I would just say talk to your doctor, and I don't know. Whenever there's hard and fast rules, I always say, well, do your research, right? Yeah, Kaz was talking about pink tourmaline too for self-love and self-healing. And also pink tourmaline for me is like a flashlight on the heart chakra. It's like if your heart's been closed for a long time, pink tourmaline can be really helpful for opening it. Yeah. And you can actually make that morning juice into a tea. You know about cold brewing, right? So you can get yourself a pitcher. We have those really pretty Flower of Life ones at Sage Goddess, which is what I use. But if you just put water in there, with some lemon juice, I use like ginger tea bags and a turmeric tea bag, and then you can add your ACV and make it into like a tea too, so you get the benefits of turmeric and ginger. Let's see, 285 Hertz tuning forks. Let me check. I know we don't always have all of the ones, and so yeah, and like Karen was saying, you can join the wait list if you want, if there's something you don't have. Lauren said she gave her kitty babies her Lepidolite yoga goddess. Aw, I love that. Well, I don't know if you heard me at the beginning, but I'm experimenting with just a little bit of lavender for Paxton, as he's a puppy and he gets into puppy mode. And I'm putting a little bit of lavender water, very diluted, on some of his toys and one of his beds, and not on others, and then just kind of seeing what he tends to migrate to. And he seems to want to sleep near and be near the lavender more than the non-lavender. So, and again, we can extend this conversation, right? Essential oils are vibrational. Some raise your frequency and some lower the frequency. And again, you might say, well, why would I want to lower my frequency? Like, don't I always want to raise my vibe? And that's why I started this class by saying, I think some of the things we have been taught in the metaphysical world need to be re-examined. It isn't just raise the vibe, raise the vibe. One thing I almost forgot to say, and I'm glad I mentioned it or thought of it because it was in my notes. Let me see if there's anything else I missed. You know me with my notes. I'm like, oh, I forgot something. The dominant oscillatory rate of your stones is not just determined by the inner structure and the color. It's also just determined by faceting. Remember what I've taught you about Vogels. Remember that? Marcel Vogel, who worked for IBM and was a powerful engineer and did all that research to create the tools that we use today for removing unwanted energy. Remember, he designed them to look like the Kabbalah tree of life, which is why there's a wider end and a more narrow end. So Vogel was onto this. He understood dominant oscillatory rate, and that the more facets, the more he cut lines into the sides of those Vogels, the more powerful they were for raising the intensity of the vibration, the higher the resting oscillatory rate. And the fewer facets, the better they were for lowering the dominant oscillatory rate. So I think it's really interesting when we connect the dots and kind of thread the needle and think about everything that I'm talking to you about tonight and how people like Vogel understood this. It's also why I have a preference for stones. And, you know, my friends who are into jewelry will be like, I can't believe you, Athena. I don't like overfaceted stones. Now, diamond cutters will say, oh, it's the 1,000-facet diamond. Don't you want there's a name for it. There's like a trade name of this like diamond that has like 1,000 facets. You can keep it. Because I don't think I could wear it day to day. I actually prefer what they called old mine cut diamonds, which had the minimum number of facets to refract light. Now, you're not going to see it from across the room. It's not a razzle-dazzle diamond, but I prefer the cut. And what's funny is they're more affordable too, but they allow the energy of diamond, which is a master healing frequency, to come through without ratcheting you up. So I always laugh. I'm like, you fancy jewelers, you fancy pants can keep your whatever they call it now, the faceted up, the yin yang diamond or whatever. I don't want it. And the reality is it gets more expensive because extra facets equals extra labor equals extra time. But mine cut diamonds or old mine diamonds or minor cut diamonds, they also call them rose cut diamonds. I'll take that any day. I hope that comes back as a fad, by the way. I really do. Oh, interesting. Well, thank you for that, Tina. Yeah, Tina's just cautioning us because she's been a GI nurse and she's seen some damage from ACV. So I appreciate it, and I would just say, you know, I'm not a medical doctor, so I can only speak to the benefits it's had for me. But I think it's worth, you know, asking if you're curious about it, especially for weight maintenance, which is what most of us work with it for. It doesn't take the place of exercise, and you still have to eat right, but I can get away with a lot for someone my size because I use ACV. Can you use a tuning fork on a quartz stone and will it hold that frequency? Great question from Lena Case. Absolutely it will. That's what we love about quartz. This is the piece I refused to let go in last night's gem sale. I was like, oh, you're mine. The precious, the precious. But quartz is the programmable stone, right? You can program quartz to behave as if it's anything else. So when you're like, I really wish I had a black tourmaline right now, really wish I had a black tourmaline right now. You do. But you have to make sure that you deprogram it once you're done wanting it to be something else. Deprogram it so that it can go back to its original intention and function. So, where do you hold the tuning fork? I don't know where to put my fingers. I try to strike it and hold it at the top so that I can put it into my tea, my soup, my morning juice, whatever it is, or tune my crystal to it. Right? You obviously don't want to hold it where it's forked because that's going to stop the vibration and the frequency. So I try to hold it near the top so that I can apply it the way I need to or want to apply it. Well, that's really cool. Kimberly was saying she's been using lavender for her poodle. And again, lavender to me seems to have a lower, slower, dominant oscillatory rate. All the sleeping oils do. Like valerian has a lower, slower. I love petitgrain for sleep. That has a lower, slower. Frankincense and myrrh are like such slow rolls for me. And then there's things like, what would I put like way up at the top? Alemi is super, super, super high vibrational. Blue tansy is like off the charts, high vibrational. Sometimes frankincense, depending on the type of frankincense, because there's different frankincense variation. I tend to think of Palo Santo as being higher and white sage as being lower in terms of dominant rates. Rose tends to have a middle of the road for me. It's not necessarily super relaxing like lavender, and myrrh for me is like super chill. Really good for grounding. Patchouli for me, one of the reasons I work with patchouli is I tend to run high vibrationally, and that doesn't always serve me. It can lead to anxiety, and so patchouli keeps me very grounded, very stable, very earthy, so I wear it every day for that reason. It's very intentional. The party bonus of patchouli is that it can attract prosperity and abundance, but that's not the main reason I wear it. Patchouli for me is the essential oil version of a glass of wine. So it just keeps things from getting to, because I'm think about what I do for a living, right? And like, even if I'm not directly interacting with everybody all the time, to some extent they're interacting with me, and it never shuts off. So I have to be very intentional about working with tools, whether it's tuning forks or crystals, and the same is probably same for you. Some of you teach online and do different things. So, Kaz was saying she was reading yesterday that Covalite covers all chakras. I don't know about that. Covalite's pretty third eye for me. But you know what? It might not be for you. So I would say experiment with it. Christiana said, so happy to catch the last part of class. Which one would you intuitively choose for me, frequency-wise? Let me feel into that. Those guys are instantly like heart chakra. Instantly. So again, that's going to be your 639. That was like quick hit. It's like, and there you are. Yeah, the 432 is the God frequency, and it's pretty powerful. You know it when you hear it. Let's see. All right, I'm going back to see if there's any other questions I can answer for you.
There were a lot of questions about the tuning forks in the feed, because when you showed them they were all out of stock, but
Yep.
they are all back in stock right now. So every single one of them.
Yeah, I think 5 o'clock. I think I got you on the, like, before because you guys were planning to restock them at 5, right?
Right, and I didn't realize I wasn't thinking about that when I brought them up.
Oh, okay.
But they are
Yeah, so
available.
the tuning forks are all in stock now. They just weren't in stock. The team had scheduled them to go back into stock at 5 p.m. So if I was talking about them and you're like, well, shit, there's nothing there, you can go now, and they're all in stock at sagegoddess.com, and then you can use your code, which is SAVE, for 24% off. Feng Shui class is going to be really fun. That's your June bonus. We should make a board for that, so I can, not today, but it'll be coming next month,
There is a board.
which is tomorrow. Which is crazy. I was saying at the beginning, like, how is it June?
You said it's going to be really fun, and I came over here to say it's going to be really fun.
I thought you were going to say it's really not. I'm like, well, shit. No, it's going to be fun. I think it's really cool because we've never had a feng shui expert and consultant come and talk with us about the Bagua map and placement of tools in your space aligned to the energies through that modality. And so I'm excited to kind of give the floor to somebody who's that's his entire area of expertise.
He's really cool. I talked to him on the phone when we were trying to find someone to do, and he blew me away because I did not get on that phone expecting to get this like reading from him, but he was talking about how he works with classical feng shui, because there are different modalities and stuff. He works with classical feng shui along with the Chinese zodiac, and he was talking about how we're in the year of the rabbit and blah blah, and I was just like, oh, I'm the year of the rooster, and he was just like, what year were you born? And I was like, 1993. And he was like, oh, so you've had like some big changes in your career. And he was just saying stuff that is totally true, just by him telling me that I'm year of the rooster in 1990. I don't know, I thought it was very, very interesting. So
yeah, it's going to be more than you expect. He's fascinating.
It's really cool.
Yeah, so that's your June bonus sessions coming with your class registration. So
and that'll be on the 19th.
On the 19th, yeah. Let's see. Yeah, I do too, Barbara. Barbara was saying she has most of her house set up according to the Bagua map. I do too. I mean, mine isn't perfect, and it's just because like the center of my house is outdoors. My house is built around a courtyard, so it's like kind of hard to align things specifically, but because some crystals and grids and stuff can't be outdoors. But by and large, I try. And it's nice because my bedroom is in the right quadrant of the house for that, and I have a fountain in the southeast corner outside. So, and those were some of the reasons why I fell in love with my house in the first place. So yeah, very exciting. Well, that brings us to the end, darlings, of May Living Magic.
Woo woo, May. Living magic.
Living magic.
Leaving
Now we're gonna
magic.
live June-jic.
Junjik does not have the same.
That's the most ugly word I think I've ever said in my life. Meet my new baby, Junjik. No.
Watch some of me. Now we'll have to start using Junjik for the name.
No. There's certain things you say out loud that you're like, no one should ever say that again.
You did it.
Junjik. So it's horrible, but you'll never forget it. You won't be able to unhear it. But thank you for being here for me. I hope you enjoyed it. It was a big month. We did a lot of work. There's, of course, as always, we're going to start June with Living Astrology. My daughter is graduating from junior high school next week.
It's very exciting.
So June is bringing a lot of, I can't believe I have 2 high schoolers. Although, I mean, attitude-wise, I totally can. It's just I can't believe I, like, by years of life, I have 2 high schoolers.
It. Even when I started working here, they were just little things.
I know.
That's crazy.
Zoe's still a little thing.
Yeah.
It's so funny. We kept thinking she was going to have a growth spurt, but the doctor's like, no, you're pretty much going to rock it at 5'1". I'm like, well, you come from small people, darling.
And when I first met her, she was wearing an Elsa shirt from Frozen.
Yeah.
And she was tiny,
Yeah,
and
I
I thought I was being like so nice, and I was just like, oh, Elsa, like you look just like her, and she's like, no, I don't. I have blue eyes. And I just thought it was so cute because Elsa totally has blue eyes and she's blonde.
She does
and
look
she
just
does
like
look
Elsa.
like her.
Yeah, but she's got a Scorpio moon. Zoe's
like,
Zoe's all Pisces until that.
We've bonded since then though. We've had some time.
That's because you're Scorpio rising.
I was like, okay.
I can't with that
alright.
shit. I'm always like, peace out, honey. You take that Scorpio moon and you stick it somewhere.
Like, that's what I get for trying to butter a fish child. I wouldn't want a stranger saying that to me either again.
Yeah, double fire sign ain't scared of that. I'm like, you put that in your bedroom, close the door. Anyway, cleaning your tuning forks. You know, my I've been sharing my thoughts, Martha, about like almost not cleaning anything anymore. Physically cleaning them, just soap and water. Energetically cleaning them, sage smoke is good. You know what I mean? What I would say is keep them somewhere together and keep a piece of selenite with them. Remember the biofield is 2 feet, right? So as long as there's a piece of selenite within 2 feet of that collection of tuning forks, it's constantly being cleared anyway. Or black kyanite would be really good too. So, yeah. Aw, thanks so much, you guys. It's very, very sweet. Well, we appreciated having you here tonight. We will be back with you soon. Friday is a full moon in Sag, darling.
It's the strawberry moon.
I cannot wait. It's my moon. I love it. It's the only full moon of the year that I really love because you know the new moon is my favorite phase, but I do love me a good full strawberry moon in Sagittarius. It's all about expansion and Jupiter and Taurus. It's like how big can we dream, you know? So I got stuff for you on Friday. So stay tuned for that, and I will see you on Friday at 5 p.m. over on the YouTubes.
And before you sign off, I'm here to remind you that registration is still open for our Find Your Angels workshop. Please don't miss out on that. It's going to be so cool. Athena and I are going to be with you all day.
We have like 10% of the seats left. So if you haven't signed up for it yet, we are going to close registration when the seats are full. So sagegoddess.com/angels. For $86, I think it is, or $88, you get the whole Saturday. You get the Oracle deck, you get the Angel Shimmer, and you get the workbook, which is super cool. But it's going to be a fantastic experience, and it'll be recorded if you miss it. But we would love to have you there live. And so we'll see you soon. sagegoddess.com/angels, and your tuning forks are at sagegoddess.com if you want them. We'll see you soon.